Hi guys, this is Thabo Makwakwa from the Inside Factor. I will be joined tonight by the Treasurer General of the EFF, Omphile Maotwe. And remember guys, the EFF is the third biggest political party in the country. I am so excited to be meeting her. I am joined today by the Treasurer General of the EFF, Omphile Maotwe, who will be speaking to us on various issues with regards to the EFF. And of course, we also want to know more about her. She's been doing a lot of interviews with many different media houses. Omphile, good evening and welcome to the Inside Factor once again.
Good evening, Thabo, and good evening to the viewers of Inside Factor. It's good to be here with you.
So in the EFF, they refer to you as Komisa. Why Komisa?
So it's a term that is used to highlight the seniority and the respect of the people. So we've got fighters, we've got what we call commissars. So commissars are those that serve in the higher structure in the organization, like in the central command team. So you'll have commissars in the central command team. Also, part of that would be the chairpersons and secretaries of provinces, because they are members of the central command team being deployed from various provinces. And the rest will then be called fighters. So it's
and ground forces.
It's a revolutionary term that has been used in China, So, yeah, so you'll have that.
You are not just a commissar. I mean, you bring a wealth of experience in the movement. You are an academic. You've worked in government before. I understand you once worked for Transnet.
That's correct.
But now, can you just give us a little background about your academic stuff?
So, yeah, well, I finished my matric at the age of 16 years. I was very young. And I went to the University of Northwest in Mafikeng campus. I studied Bachelor of Science in Computer Science. And then I completed that BSc degree, and then I went to further my studies still with the institution and studying for postgraduate diploma in financial management. And after that, I took a little bit of a break from studies and I went job hunting, like, African people we would do. We don't have guaranteed jobs, unlike the other races. So I had to go look for a job because it was time for me really to start looking after myself and after my family, my mom in particular. And then later I came back to the studies again, and I did masters in business leadership with the institution, with UNISA, University of South Africa. So yeah, it's been an interesting journey, and started working way back in some time back, yeah. It's been quite a while. Yeah, started working in the Northwest and moved to Gauteng.
What role were you doing in the Northwest?
So I was so fresh from university, I went to work for a company called Northwest Housing Corporation. Okay. It was a government entity that was providing houses throughout the previously known as Bophuthatswana. So they will have houses in Mabopane, in Mokhwase, in Madikwe, in many parts of Bophuthatswana by that during that time. And so I was in the IT department because I did computer science. So I worked there, and then I left, and I worked for a company called Lengani Investments, which were managing the weighbridge operations in the Northwest. It was a partnership with government, Department of Transport, to try to secure and safeguard and maintain our roads in good conditions. So every truck that passes would take it to the weighbridge to weigh it, to make sure that they don't overload, because overloading on the roads causes road erosions, damages to the road, so the roads don't get the full lifespan of those roads. So we tried to prevent that. And then I left and I came to Gauteng. I joined a private company. It was a consulting firm. I was the coordinator, project coordinator there. And shortly after that, I then joined Transnet in 2012. And I worked...
When Transnet was actually doing very well.
Transnet did very well, I must say. I joined, shortly after I joined, they appointed Mr. Siyabonga Gama as the chief executive. Yes. And look, actually prior to him, it was Brian Molefe. So it was Brian Molefe at my time. And Brian came with an Africa strategy where he says we need to spread our wings beyond just the border of South Africa. We need to go into Africa. And he pushed that struggle really. And the basis of that was to create jobs for the people of South Africa, but also to push the narrative that says, as Africans, we can work together and we can do more together. We don't need, the Western to come and invest in us and work with us. If you've got skills in South Africa, you can share those skills with those in the West Africa, in the East. And as a continent, we can rise up and work together. So he was really pushing what we call the African Rail Renaissance, which is encouraged by what African Union actually agreed to say we need to connect the continent. From Cape to Cairo, from Morocco to Madagascar, we need to be able to move through rail connectivity. Because rail is a very dependable and secure and safe mode of transport, not just for the goods, but also for the people. And it's very cheap, it comes up very cheap. So if we don't have movement of goods, we'll not be able to trade amongst ourselves as the continent. So we went there to say to the rest of the continent that, look, we are moving over 200 million tons of cargo a year. And the second biggest railway in Africa would be moving, say, maybe 5 million tons a year. So that's a huge gap that we have. So we can't be having all these resources and skills in the country and not sharing it with our fellow Africans. So let's share the notes, let's compare the notes, but let's also develop each other. Don't go and buy rolling stock from outside the continent when we are here. We've got the capability and the capacity to build the rolling stock for you. Rolling stock, we're talking the locomotives, the wagons, and the coaches, passenger coaches. So we're saying as Transnet, we've got a lot of fleet in terms of locomotives. I mean, we are sitting now at the very well-known 1064 new locomotives that were added in the fleet of Transnet, with Transnet having had already 3,500 locomotives on their fleet and having over 80,000 wagons. If you ask any African country how much or how many rolling stock they have, they'll tell you that we've got very few. I mean, our neighbor here, Botswana, at some point, I think it was back in 2017, 2016, they had a strategy of moving 4 million tons a year. So their strategy was to say, by this year, we need to move 4 million tons. By that time, Transnet was already moving 200 million tons of cargo. So you can see the huge gap. And we said, it is not correct. And we've seen with that strategy of Africa strategy being a real success, because then we started, we built coaches for Botswana Railways, we built passenger coaches, we built wagons, we would maintain their locomotive, we'll refurbish them from scratch. We would, Mozambique, we had big deals there of manufacturing and delivering wagons and couches. The same in Guinea. We were really entering and penetrating the continent. And then we had Siyabonga Gama, who came and launched what was known as the Trans-Africa locomotive. So Trans-Africa locomotive is a pride of Africa because it was built by Africans for Africa,
yes.
In Africa. So we're saying a lot of the rolling stock, a lot of locomotives, they get sold or purchased from outside the continent. So we are showcasing our skills and showing the world that actually here in Africa we can build what is ours. Researched and spec'd and manufactured here in Africa by Africans for Africa.
Don't you miss it? I mean, like, you are a politician now. Don't you miss being a Transnet?
No, I don't, because look, Thabo, we ought to push the struggle in different ways. I believe that we pushed that struggle in Transnet. I mean, to have the president of the country coming to launch a locomotive that was built by Africa for Africans and in Africa, it gave us a mileage for us. And we feel that, look, we've contributed to that struggle. I mean, I just gave you examples of how this strategy actually made us to penetrate and enter the market in Africa, and how we were uniting Africans. But then we came this current regime, this administration,
I wanted
which
come
which
into
now
that.
yes, which now came and really reversed all the gains that we
How do you
had.
feel about that? I mean,
It's
reflecting
very
back
sad. It's very sad, and it actually motivated my leaving that sector, because it wasn't going to help me to sit in that, and I see that our people are still being taken for a ride.
Now, what could be the reasons behind that? Why are they stopping this progress amongst Africans?
So possibly they're captured. I mean, that's the first thing you could be thinking. Why would you stop such a progressive move?
And who are those people stopping it?
Look, it's Pravin. Pravin is the Minister of
Public Enterprise.
Public Enterprise. During the time of Brian Molefe, the minister was Malusi Gigaba. I remember at one point, Malusi came to East London when we were shipping the wagons and locomotives out of East London to Mozambique. He came because he believed in that struggle. Brian Molefe personally went to Tanzania to negotiate for a deal of Transnet manufacturing and maintaining the rolling stock of Tanzania Railways. And then Siyabonga Kama was the same. And then President Zuma came. The way he believed in this project that we're in, he came and he graced our ceremony by launching the Trans-Africa locomotive. But then since after that came the Ramaphosa administration that did what? That said, no, you can't go beyond the borders. And they won't say it to you, but you'll just see with them declining anything and everything that seeks to speak to expanding your wings beyond the current. And that was, it didn't come as a surprise, by the way, because that was the regime of Maria Ramos. Maria Ramos did not believe in us expanding our wings beyond South Africa. And who is Maria Ramos? You're talking Trevor Manuel. You're talking, it's the same current regime. It's the current administration, actually. So we are in that situation. And we said, I personally said, look, my conscience would not agree that I still sit here and see that we will reverse all the gains that we're making.
Now, what do you think is the best way of actually challenging that? Whatever is happening, the reversals, the gains that, you guys have actually achieved at the time.
We must remove the ANC from power.
And what is it that they stand to benefit from making all these reversals? Why would you allege that Pravin Gordhan is behind it? What's there for him to benefit from this?
So remember, Ramaphosa went to open a facility in Boksburg, Gibela. That's a private facility. That private facility is a direct competitor of Transnet, right? So how does the sitting president have interest in private ownership as opposed to pumping money and resources and assisting his own public entity to be at the level where it can compete worldwide? So that's what we're dealing with. And what I'm saying is Pravin is because Pravin is the minister of currently. He is the shareholder of Transnet. He is the one who says to Transnet, I need you to implement 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They will not implement anything that is not in the shareholder compact. So what goes in the shareholder compact is what Transnet needs to move, approved by the Minister of Public Enterprise. So if the minister does not agree, he will not. It will not find its way into the shareholder compact. And that's what we are seeing. There's no reason why really Ramaphosa went to open Gibela. If he felt that Transnet needed to up their skills, all that Transnet needed was a little bit of money, because there's a research and development department, special research and development department at Transnet that researches those kids and those brothers and sisters. They have proven beyond reasonable doubt that they are capable. They produced a locomotive, something that we could not do 150 years into existence. So Transnet was in existence over 150 years. They never produced a single locomotive. But came the Brian and the Siyabonga Gama regime, and they produced that locomotive. But if you ask today, where is that locomotive? It's nowhere.
Talking about, the collapse of the state-owned enterprises, there is PRASA. And today, a lot of our people, obviously the masses, are unable to travel using the railway because it's destroyed.
Absolutely.
What happened there? Isn't that they removed some of, the people alleged to be corrupt, people alleged to have run down those enterprises to ensure that, they redeem them in a way, they bring them back to, its former glory and ensure that people have got access to transportation through railway. What is happening? Where are we going with this?
So there is no political will in PRASA. Remember, passenger railways, by their nature, they are not meant to make profit. If you look at broadly in Africa, they would provide a passenger service. When I say they, I'm talking the private companies. They will say to government, we want to open a mine that mines gold or diamond or anything. So in return, we will then give you a CSI project, a corporate social investment project. And what is that? It is them providing a service for the people. So passenger railways don't make money. They're not meant to make money because they're transporting the poor. So what government needs to do is to provide services that allows for the smooth running of the passenger railways, including, by the way, Gautrain. Gautrain has been subsidized by government, even though it doesn't really serve our poor people. It serves the elite, so-called the elite, but still benefits from government because it gets grants from government to be running. So that's the nature of the railways. It's not meant to make money. All that PRASA needs to do, by the way, PRASA used to fall under Transnet when it was doing very well. Yes. Why? Because remember, Transnet owns the infrastructure. Transnet maintains the infrastructure. So Transnet makes money through goods, moving of goods, cargo. It doesn't make money from passenger services. What government needs to do now to revive PRASA must go back to Transnet and still provide the passenger service. It does not help to have, so you'll find that there's actually even double structures. Currently at PRASA, there's what you call PRASA Technical. PRASA Technical seeks to maintain their fleet at a lower scale and also maintain the infrastructure. But is it their job really? It's not their job. Their job is to move people from one point to the other, from point A to point B. So they must focus on moving people and leave the maintenance of the infrastructure, the maintenance of the rolling stock to Transnet. But they can only do that if they are one entity called Transnet, under Transnet arm. So it must go back there and allow Transnet. After all, Transnet owns the bigger chunk of the infrastructure in the country. So, and they've got resources. Though you will not find the duplication of services where PRASA seeks to maintain the rolling stock and the infrastructure, and Transnet also seeks to maintain the rolling stock and the infrastructure. And remember, Transnet is able to do that because they generate revenue. How do they generate revenue? They generate revenue through movement of goods. How does PRASA generate revenue? They can't. They don't. They're not even meant to do that. Their mandate is not to generate revenue. Their mandate is to move people from point A to point B because that is what is moving the economy. If they don't move people, how will people then come and go get to work? The economy comes to a standstill. But they must then go back and Transnet run that because Transnet is able to generate revenue.
You are in Parliament and a whole lot of other members, of your party. Now, with all these beautiful ideas you have, are you guys making contribution in Parliament to say, maybe this is what needs to be done? Are you suggesting something and present it to the minister or the portfolio committee to say, maybe this is how we need to go about? And I ask this question precisely because I know for a fact that the EFF, there's this hostility between the EFF and, of course, Minister Pravin Gordhan. Now, I'm just interested in knowing if you guys are willing to assist this department so that we can achieve exactly what you guys have been trying to spread out there.
So we do. We are called public representatives because we are representing the public. Yeah. Our role is really to better the lives of our people. So you have that attitude in some of the ministers who looks at who is talking instead of looking at what are you saying. So before you can even open your mouth, they will just reject you. I mean, the issue of expropriation of land without compensation, they've been rejecting it all along, purely because it was coming from the EFF, until they went to their own conference, which then resolved on the expropriation of land without compensation. And when we put it back to Parliament, still they came up with nonsensical amendments. And we said, okay, it's fine. If at the end of the day it's going to lead to expropriation of land without compensation, that's fine. So you find them giving you that attitude. I sit in the Portfolio Committee of Public Enterprise. And I can tell you, there's lots of ideas that you put forward on the table. Coming from experience, you know, when you come from this entity, no one can take that away from you. No one can take out the way from me the fact that I worked for Transnet for 11 years. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what you do. It's a fact. I worked for Transnet for 11 years, and there's nothing anybody can do to erase that. So Pravin has not worked at Transnet for 11 years. He doesn't have the experience. And we come with that experience, particularly when it comes to revenue generations, which is the key to keeping Transnet alive. I mean, we are the ones who went into the field, in the continent, everywhere else in the world, looking for work for Transnet, pushing the Transnet flag, flying it very high, getting deals for Transnet to come and get our people to get employment, which in turn will lead to employment, but also contributing to the economy. I mean, for many, many years, Transnet was not dependent on government for grants. But I will not be shocked now if we hear that Transnet is looking for government for grants. We're not like Eskom. We're never like Eskom. We used to generate our own revenue, run our own operations, and still even get performance bonuses, you know, because we're doing very well. And we're doing very well because we had proper leadership that had the vision of moving Transnet forward, but also showing to the whole world that it is possible. An African railway company can actually exist, and it can actually do very well. So, I mean, when we speak in the Portfolio Committee, some of the nonsensical things that they do, you look at them and you're like, guys, why are you taking us back to prior 1994? Why are you taking us back at least to prior, even 2008, you know, when Transnet was looking inwards as opposed to outwards? So we've got those challenges. We put them forward, but we've got only few numbers. So with the numbers that we have, we can only push so much. And if they are blatant that they're not going to be listening to you, they're not going to agree with what you say, it is what it is. But we make that contribution. And not only in this Portfolio Committee, by the way, in all the Portfolio Committees, we come up with bright ideas. Not only because we've got experience, corporate experience, but also because we're on the ground. We live with our people. We know what our people need. We know what the challenges our people are facing on the ground. And when we put those issues forward, most of them, they get turned.
Now, in the Portfolio Committee you sit in, the public enterprises, is there anything notable you would say, you know, the Minister of Public Enterprises, Pravin Gordhan, has achieved or done excellently well?
No, nothing. There's nothing you can point out to. I mean, it's still load shedding today, even under Pravin, even under a white CEO. Transnet is even worse now. It's doing worse than it used to do. Before, we used to make lots and lots of revenue. I mean, profit. Our EBITDA was very good. We used to get Fed bonuses those days. SAA is just now being privatized. It's now, you know, a private entity owns the biggest share in the SAA. Dinel, today they can't pay their salaries. So it's not about emotions. It's not about us hating Pravin or anything. It's about the facts that people like you out there should be saying them, because not everybody's like you. People can see, I mean, the journalists can see, why is there no outrage? The same outrage that used to be there when it was Brian Molefe and Matela Koko, or when it was Sebonga Gama for that matter. Transnet is not doing well. Why is everybody quiet about it? You know, so that's what Pravin is. There's nothing that he has done, honestly, that has changed for the betterment of our people.
Is it a matter of them failing to execute their duties, or this is just deliberate, it's intentional to run these SOEs down? It's
both. So it's deliberate because possibly they made promises to their funders during the campaign for CR17. I mean, you've seen him, he was at the center of fundraising for the campaign. So why would he be the one pushing for all these privatizations? And that's the question we always even ask him in Parliament. Why are you pushing for privatization? We asked him from day one, are you privatizing SAA? He said no. Today, SAA is privatized. The government owns a lesser stake in SAA. 49%. So it's not a majority shareholder there. And So it's deliberate, but also there's a lot of incompetency and incapacity that is encompassing Pravin Gordhan. He's not capable of anything. He's good for nothing, Pravin. Honestly, if he can just step aside and go and look after his grandchildren, I'm sure these SOEs will come back to life and they will do very well, because him and the people that he deployed are not assisting us in improving this state of SOEs.
I don't want us to be, dwelling on this matter. But anyway, I wanted to make a point that, you see, he did not deploy himself. The ministerial position did not come out of his willingness. He has got his own boss, who is the president of the country, Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa. So shouldn't you guys be, blaming the man behind, the man who actually made Mr. Gordhan the minister?
No, he's to blame. We're not leaving him for anything. Mm-hmm. He is the problem. Ramaphosa is the problem equally. His cabinet ministers are problems because they are not performing, and he is not even doing anything about Pravin. I mean, but if it was any other person, they'll be calling for his removal. There's been a lot of reshuffling that has happened even under Ramaphosa, but Pravin is untouchable. He has not been removed. Even though he has not delivered anything, 3 years down the line, he's still blaming state capture. Dude, deal with state capture, but what are you then doing to reverse all those mistakes that the previous regime did? So you can't always be telling us about state capture. What are you doing to turn around the situation? I mean, it's doable. We saw Brand Molefe coming and turning around the state of Transnet within a space of a year. We saw the same with Siyabonga Gama. But he appointed Portia Key, the CEO. What has she done so far? She has not done anything. What has the Rederator, CEO of Eskom, done? He has not done anything. Andre Rederator, he has not done anything. Instead, Eskom is getting worse, and they're actually privatizing it. They're in the plan to privatize it because now they're talking about unbundling and all those things. Those are just terms that they used so that they can privatize Eskom. In
the observation of the EFF, in 5 years' time, are we going to have anything that is owned by the state?
Doesn't look like. It looks like by the time, actually 5 years is too long. By the time their time comes to an end, in 2024, I think, we'll not be owning anything. If we'll be owning, it will be a service that they use to give to the white monopoly capital at very low prices. And why I'm saying that is if you look at the ports, Transnet ports, for example, you've seen the president of the country going to TNPA and TPT and talking about bringing private companies for efficiency. That's nonsense, in all fairness. That's absolutely nonsense. So what they're trying to do is to bring private companies who will tap onto the existing infrastructure of Transnet. So Transnet, as a government-owned entity, will be used to provide the infrastructure. And these people will just come and claim to be running efficiency, but on Transnet infrastructure. And they will be paying a fraction of what they should have been paying if they were not there. So that's another scheme of looting. That's another scheme of, rendering state government services at a minimal cost that benefits private companies as opposed to benefiting Transnet. Sometimes you might just go to Transnet when you're in Durban. I know you're based in Durban. Just go to Transnet and ask them, who runs this, who runs that? You'll realize that our people are being made laborers. They provide the infrastructure and then they don't do the bigger chunk of the work. They get given crumbs. And those are the things that the likes of Siyabonga Gama and the others were fighting against, to say it can't be correct that all these years into democracy, we still see us being subjected to just crumbs when you could be playing in a bigger pie. I mean, the pie is too big. It's enough for all of us to share. And more so that it benefits the people of this country, the indigenous people of this country. But this government of the day is not interested in that. Transform the economy if you don't industrialize, because you're not producing anything. So we need to be a government that produces goods and services. And we've got abundance of mineral resources here in the country. We're not short of minerals. We are in abundance of, agricultural land and forestry and all those things. So we are in a position to industrialize. Let me give an example. There's a tender, there's a contract running, a concession in Mpumalanga with the Chinese of moving trees from Mpumalanga through Durban out to China to make furniture and bring it back to the country. Sell it to our people at a higher cost. So we're saying that can't be correct. So because we've got forestry, it should benefit the people of this country. So you open a factory here, you beneficiate here in the country and produce the furniture here and sell finished goods out of the country, not sell raw material out of the country. If you go to Transnet, back to Transnet again, there's a line called the coal line, which runs from Emelo to Durban. That's a dedicated coal line. It moves coal from Emelo to Durban and then out of the country. We're saying, why don't we beneficiate that coal here and it leaves this country in a finished good?
Do we have capacity to do that?
We do. We have capacity.
Why are we not doing it?
Because there's no political willingness. There isn't. We are running an iron ore line. It's from Sishen to Saldanha. That's a 4-kilometer long train running daily by Transnet, moving out iron ore out of this country through Saldanha port into the rest of the world. Why aren't we beneficiating that? And we should not look at this subject, Thabo, in isolation with other countries, which is why as the EFF we advocate for One Africa. One Africa because the minerals in the DRC, the rice in Senegal, cocoa in Ghana, as a continent, if we come together and have one president, one Africa, we share all these minerals. We share all the train moves from Ghana to beneficiate that cocoa here in South Africa to produce what we eat as Kit Kat, as lunch bar, as chocolate here in the country. And you said,
are we ever going to realize that? I mean,
we are not with the current regime.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we will never. The ANC is not interested in that.
But is it only about the ANC? I mean, just recently we saw during the Pan-African Parliament, African leaders there fighting amongst themselves over the position of who must take over the reins of the parliament. So is it the white monopoly capital? Do we also have to bring in the ANC into this, or is it just a general problem amongst Africans?
No, it's not a problem of Africans. It's a man-made problem outside Africa. So many of the African countries have been managed from outside. And I mean, think about, do you think it was a coincidence that the French president visited Africa at the time when the Pan-African Parliament was sitting? It's not a coincidence. And why is it that the Western were fighting for the rotation rule not to pass, because they wanted to still come back and because they've got numbers, they are a bigger region, so they know that with their numbers and possibly in the north and the east they will defeat the south. Now we're saying we are infiltrated amongst ourselves as Africans, and it doesn't come as a surprise. People have been controlled from outside. Money has been used to buy our people, and it's done so that it can force the status quo to remain. So we must be very patient with our people. We must not be impatient with this thing. There will come a time where all of us will realize that we have been played for a very long time. There will come a time where all of us, we feel that enough is enough. And yes, the ANC, we are bringing it in this subject because they are the ruling party. And they've got a lot of influence because they control what goes where. So we're saying to our people, for our people to achieve and attain what we call economic freedom, they must give the EFF a chance. And then let's see if the EFF can improve the living conditions of our people. We're very clear when it comes to the issues of a united Africa. And they will not want to see a united Africa because it will not work for them. If Africans can unite, the world knows that there will be a big problem of them managing Africans. But the more we remain divided, the more they are controlling us, the more they still take minerals from us, the more they do as they please in Africa. So they will do anything to keep us divided and not united.
Talking of divisions in Africa, I mean, our neighboring country here, the Kingdom of Swaziland, is in a mess. There's a conflict going on, the protest, and we understand that the EFF is quite involved. How is the EFF involved in the struggle of Swaziland?
No, we are very clear that a monarch must fall. The people of Swaziland are asking for freedom. They're asking to choose their own leader. It can't be correct that the king is still the king and he does as he pleases. He controls almost everything. So what the people of Swaziland are crying for is freedom. They just want freedom. And yes, the EFF Swaziland is doing very well. They are fighting for the people of Swaziland, and they must continue to fight for the people of Swaziland. And we encourage them to never...
Is that not inciting violence?
It's not.
By encouraging
no,
them
it's
to do
not
that.
inciting violence. When we were under apartheid, the continent was with us. They were not inciting violence. They were saying free South Africa. We were also saying free Swaziland. That's all we were saying. And by the way, the people that have been violent to the people of Swaziland is the government of Swaziland. It's not the people. The people are protesting peacefully, and the police are being sent to them, the military has been sent to them to even knock at their doors, the houses, kicking and beating up women and children. That is what is called abuse. That is violence. Our people don't have guns, don't have anything. If anything, they run when the police come because they are not fighting. They are just calling for the freedom.
So has the EFF sought to sort of like, have a discussion, a diplomatic discussion, if I may call it that, with the government or the monarch of Swaziland to try and, come up with, something that will actually benefit the people and stop the violence?
Remember, we are not government.
But you have got interest in this thing that's happening in Swaziland.
No, we do. But then there's a delegation that was sent by the South African government, which the king recognizes. Because it's government. That's what I'm saying. If you're not government, it's very difficult to speak to government when you're not government. So we speak to our structures and we provide guidance in terms of...
Do you also provide monetary contribution funding?
We did. I mean, they were locked in jail and they didn't have money for bail.
Prior to them deciding that this is the road we are going to take, speaking to the EFF, did they sort of like request funding in order to support their struggle?
No, they did not. They put, when we supported them financially, is when they put it on Twitter that fighters are arrested and they don't have money to bail those fighters. And we came in and assisted them financially to release our fighters.
So in other African countries where there are also conflicts, the people not being happy with their government of the day, would you, as the EFF, also go and, provide guidance to people or the members of the opposition?
Absolutely. Anytime. And we're calling on all those people to call on the EFF to come and assist. We seek to unite Africa, Thabo. We fight for economic emancipation of our people. We fight for black empowerment of our people. We fight for to reverse the injustices of the past, irrespective of where you are in the continent. So people of the continent, if they feel that they are not being looked after, they are being killed, they've been beaten for speaking the truth, they must call on the EFF, and we're here. I mean, we've got structures already in the continent, but we need to have structures in each and every country in Africa so that we can all speak in one voice. And when we push for the economic freedom in our lifetime, we push and then there's no stumbling block. The reason why you see that a progressive thing like land expropriation failed in Zimbabwe is because the Zimbabwean government did not get support. When Zimbabwean government wanted to take the land, the people who were occupying the land kept on pushing and saying, no, we'll give it to you on this date. Push for the next 15 years, push for the next 10 years. Until the time when the people of Zimbabwe were sick and tired of that, and they went to take the land forcefully without following constitution, for example. And we did not see other countries coming in support of Zimbabweans, to support the Zimbabweans when there was embargoes, when the Zimbabweans were now hungry and all that, we did not see. So it must be a coordinated and consolidated effort that says that when South Africa expropriates the land, what is the ripple effect of that, particularly in Africa. It can't be business as usual in Botswana and Zimbabwe and Namibia when we run such progressive movement. But if we don't have structures in those countries, it's going to be very difficult. And remember, our enemy is waiting for us to fail. So they will fail, they will look at us and make us to fail. And if our people in the continent are not coming to the party to assist us, to know that we are fighting this thing together, then we're going to have a big problem. And the enemy will come out and say, but we told you that socialism does not work. As if capitalism works. Capitalism has not worked. 27 years into democracy in South Africa, it has not worked. That's why we see high levels of unemployment, high levels of inequality, high levels of poverty. And it will remain like that for as long as capitalism is the order of the day in the country.
Omphile, just recently there was violence in the country. We saw this unrest, which of course emanated apparently from the arrest of the former president, Jacob Zuma. We saw shopping centers getting banned in KwaZulu-Natal. I was actually, covering some of these events in Phoenix and other places in the KwaZulu-Natal area. We also saw it spreading into Gauteng and the other provinces, even though it was not really reported by the mainstream media. What do you think actually, informed that unrest, the civil unrest which we saw? Was it because of the arrest of Jacob Zuma? And I asked this question because, there's just too many narratives, theories that are created around the issue. In your observation as the party, the EFF, what do you think actually, contributed to that unrest?
It is the ANC, and the ANC must be blamed for it. Because the ANC, they are running the country as if they are running a spaza shop. So President Zuma was imprisoned. It's still a debate today to say where's the case number of this person. We know that he had reservations about the Zondo Commission. The CIC and the president of the EFF went to speak to him to say, look, there are ways of actually voicing out your frustrations, but go to the commission. So the commission did not budge. We saw them rushing through, going to Constitutional Court to seek an order. And that forced then Mr. Zuma to come, to appear. And when he didn't, the summons were issued and the warrant of arrest was issued subsequent to that. So all these makings are the makings of the ANC, and they must be blamed for that. We must not beat about the bush. But also it shows you, Thabo, how our people are so hungry. Our people came in their numbers. They used that unrest, The unrest was started by the ANC. That is a fact. It was started by the ANC, the members of the ANC. And we saw people going into the malls, taking mealie meal, taking nappies, taking sanitary pads, to show just to government that we are hungry. And that correlates with the statistics that says there's a high unemployment rate in the country. But guess what this government does? They go and take back the mealie meal. They go and take back the sanitary pads. And to make matters worse, they ban them. So you take from the poor. The poor says to you, I'm hungry. I need food. I need to have nappies for my child. I need sanitary pads because it's a natural thing that on this date I'll have menstrual periods. They come and take those things and then they ban them. So that's how cruel the government of the day is. And they go and collect fridges and all that. And we say, but, with all the police that were deployed to go and do that, and the military, how much is it costing the state? But the painful thing, Thabo, is the Phoenix one. When people, particularly Africans, were dying in their numbers in Phoenix. The president of the country goes to KZN and returns at the mall and comes back to Johannesburg and say, I've got pressing issues in Johannesburg. He never visited a single family of those that were killed in Phoenix. Is it because they are black? He goes to visit the malls. He goes to a walkabout in a mall, right? That mall, irrespective of whether it's owned by black or white, but who owns the shops in those malls? Who gets to benefit out of those malls? It's not our people. if anything, is taking money from our people. And he forgets or he leaves the families of the deceased and says, you are on your own, you'll see to finish. I don't care about you. What I care about is the mall. That is what the president we have today. So the people of South Africa, they should see the president of the country for who he is. Because for him, it's not about black people. The same happened in Marikana, where black people were killed after he himself called for concomitant action against our people. To date, he has not gone to Marikana to visit those families. So that's who he is. So if the people of South Africa keep on choosing him as the president, they've got nobody to blame but themselves, because they're inflicting pain on themselves. But we're saying to our people, what more must happen for you to see the president of the country for really who he is? Must there be another Marikana to see? They've just been a Phoenix now. Must there be another Alex, maybe, for you to see for who he is? So our people must wake up and really understand what the ANC stands for and what the ANC feels for them and what the president of the ANC thinks about them, because that's exactly what he thinks about them. Actually, now I'm happy that he does that, because he's showing everybody he's unapologetic about his stance when it comes to people and white businesses. It's us, black people, who are confused. So we must stop being confused and know for who he is.
That's quite heavy for me, especially the fact that, of course, he never showed up in Phoenix as well as in Marikana. I worked, by the way, I was on the ground and I saw what really happened at Phoenix. It was not such a beautiful sight. And on the issue of, accountability, it's in a democracy such as ours, we see even with the EFF and many other political parties that constantly engage with the media and they take questions. And there has been an outcry that our sitting president of South Africa does not take questions from the media. In fact, he does not engage with the media. He makes a statement and he goes. Why is it that?
So he thinks he's running a monarch, but he doesn't do that only to mainstream media. He does it also in Parliament. I mean, the last question and session in Parliament, I was personally kicked out of Parliament because I was asking him about something that is very close to my heart. He went to Durban Port, and he came and said we need efficiency. That's why he's bringing private companies. And I said, but that's nonsense. You can't tell me about that. There's programs in Transnet that we've been deploying. For that matter, Durban Port was the second biggest port in the continent, not just by numbers, but also by revenue. So how do you say there's no efficiency in Durban when it's the second best port in the continent? So he was just speaking. He doesn't know what he's talking about. But what they are trying to do is to sneak in the private companies through that. And I wanted to ask him a direct question, and I was blocked from asking that question because the speaker felt that I went beyond the time. He's untouchable like that. And there's no outcry from the media, by the way, to say, but you're not taking... Of course, if you go on the street, you'll hear that they're complaining, but there's not been a push by the media to say, you're not taking questions, you're not taking questions. He thinks he's running a monarch. He thinks that he can just come and address and go. So he wants to run from accountability everywhere, not just in the mainstream media, but also in Parliament. He wants to run away from accountability. He doesn't want to be held accountable. Because he thinks that this is his sponsor shop. And
so if the media can't hold him accountable, political parties in Parliament cannot hold him accountable, then who should?
The people of the country. The voters must hold Ramaphosa accountable. The voters of the country must say to Ramaphosa, in 2019 you came to Alex and you promised the people of Alex 1 million houses. Where are the 1 million houses? Just last week, during the registration weekend, he was in Soweto, promising the people of Soweto that he's going to resolve the electricity problem of Soweto. So he will keep on lying because the people give him that power through voting him. He gets voted into president, and he knows that he's untouchable like that. We can only do so much, Thabo, as a member of Parliament and as the mainstream media. They can only do so much. But the power he's been given is the power of one man, one vote. If our people can understand the power of one man, one vote, they will actually realize that they are the one that are making Ramaphosa to be what he is. And if they could be holding him accountable, he will not be as arrogant as he is and trying to run away from accountability the way that he is.
Well, we are moving towards the local government elections, and I understand that the EFF says it is ready to govern. In all the municipalities it is contesting, and surely you guys should get something this time around. Do you think that's going to happen? Do you think the people of South Africa will entrust you with the responsibility to govern these municipalities?
We believe so. We believe so, Thabo. 8 years into the existence of the EFF, the people of South Africa have come to appreciate that EFF is the voice that they've always been missing in action. So in 2016, when we were contesting the local government elections for the first time, there was that uncertainty about the EFF and its capacity and its capability, but we are now well experienced. I mean, we are now in the second administration in parliament. You know, we've deployed the second battalion in parliament. We've deployed second set of battalions through the provincial legislatures. The term of councillors is coming to an end, but in the 5 years, you can point out to many, many things that councillors fought for in various municipalities. I'll just give you an example with City of Johannesburg. In the City of Johannesburg, you've seen the EFF passing a motion that was supported by the DA to insource the security workers. The security workers that were under a contract, the contractor that was getting 14,000 rands per person claiming from the city, and yet taking only 4,000 to go into the pockets of security guards, meaning that that company was taking 10,000 rands for doing absolutely nothing. And our poor people would have remained poorer and poorer. And what has that happened now? It has transformed the people of the security guards of the City of Johannesburg, because now they are getting 14,000. Not only that, but also the benefits. Now they can pay medical aids. Now they can go and get, loans from government, not from government, from the banks. They can go and enter into installment agreements for buying cars and buying houses. They can have a decent life knowing that now they are full-time in the city. Let's also look at, even though it's not a local government issue, but the issue of the workers at VETS, the cleaners at VETS, the domestic workers at VETS were not insourced. They were private. And by them being private, it meant that they could not benefit from what VETS is giving to the likes of the lecturers of VETS. Because when you are a lecturer of VETS, you are an employee of VETS University. Your kids can study at VETS for free. So the domestic workers who are poorer, who are earning far much less than the lecturers, who can't afford to bring their kids to school, were deprived of that benefit. And the lecturers who could afford were given that benefit. That's the sad state of affairs of our country. So we saw with the insourcing of domestic workers now a child of a domestic worker is able to attend, to register at VETS University. So there's many, many examples that I can give throughout various municipalities. So these elections, 2021 local government elections, are the highly, highly contested elections in our view. Because one, the people of South Africa have opened their eyes and come to realize that the EFF is the only solution. But also the parties themselves, the political parties have come to appreciate that the EFF can actually take over through these municipalities. Because our interest in municipalities, Thabo, is very close to our heart, because it speaks directly to the service delivery. The service delivery in this country is purely due to lack of services from municipalities. They're crying about water, they're crying about electricity, they're crying about the roads. Those are the services that are provided for by the municipalities. Now, if we can be able to govern at that level with 4,468 wards, when we have presence in majority of those wards, you can be rest assured that come national government, we're going to take over. So I'm saying these elections are the most highly contested because not only the people are sick and tired of the ruling party, but also the ruling party and the other political parties appreciate the role. That's why you just hear the DA coming and saying, how is the EFF going to comply with the 500 people gathering? I mean, why is it their business? It's their business because they are scared that the EFF was going to take over. The EFF, with their first attempt in the local government sphere, we saw them unseating ANC from government in Tshwane, in Johannesburg, in Ekurhuleni, in Nelson Mandela Metro, in Rustenburg. They rule those municipalities today through coalition or through some form of an arrangement. And that was the first attempt of the EFF. Now, with the experience that we have, with the voice that we are, with us fighting for the people on the ground, being on the ground with the people on a daily basis, our people are going to vote for the EFF, and the EFF is going to be the governing party in most of the municipalities come the 1st of November.
Speaking of such confidence, you seem very convinced that indeed you guys will be in government. You said that the ANC is in government in some of these metros and other municipalities through some form of arrangements. We saw this form of arrangement, which was unexpected from the EFF and the DA. And of course, it didn't go very well. Do you think as a party you made a mistake voting with the DA back in 2016?
No. So our founding manifesto is very clear. It says that we seek to remove the ruling party from power. Now, you can't be removing the ruling party from power and then you are given the opportunity and then you still give them some sort of arrangement to still continue ruling. So we are going to remove the ruling party, irrespective of who they are. It could be the ANC, it could be DA, it could be, even if it was FF+, we're going to remove it from power. And if we can't agree, because the main contender and contentious issue that we find difficult when negotiating with these political parties is that they do not want to agree to our 7 non-negotiable cardinal pillars. And we also will not back down on the 7 non-negotiable cardinal pillars, non-negotiable cardinal pillars. We will never backtrack on the issue of land expropriation without compensation. But with the likes of the DA and the ANC, they don't agree with us. So we then said to ourselves, what do we then do? Remember, if we don't participate, you will be cowards. I mean, this is a war we're fighting, and we're in it to fight. So we can't go with the ANC because we want to remove the ANC from power. Here is the DA and everybody else. They don't agree to expropriation of land without compensation. But what is at stake is our people, because our people are not receiving the services that they require. So what do we then do? We say we can't co-govern with them. We can't form a coalition with them because they don't agree with us. Because once we take over government, we're going to expropriate land without compensation. The land that belongs to municipalities, that's the first land we're going to take. We will not be able to do that when we're in a coalition because the coalition agreement would not agree. Because before you enter into an agreement, you go into terms and conditions. And our conditions are 7 non-negotiable cardinal pillars, which they don't want. And we put our differences aside and said, let's put the people first. Let the people of the city and the people of municipalities receive the services. The ruling party has not given our people services, so they are not an option. In any case, even our constitution, our founding manifesto, says that we seek to remove the ruling party from government. So we can't put them back into government. And that's why you saw EFF not co-governing anyway, and rather giving a chance to the opposition party to say, let's then give them to government. So we did not make a mistake. We are very happy that it has happened. It has taught us that our people must go out in their numbers and vote for the EFF so that we can implement our resolutions, our manifesto. So we have the manifesto, we go into municipalities, we translate that into IDPs, and then we pass the budget to implement our IDPs. But if we don't have the numbers in the council, you will not be able to pass the budget. And you will not be able then to provide the services that you've promised to the people when you were campaigning. So our people should just know that one man, one vote is what we have currently, is what the country negotiated for, is what our forefathers could bring onto the table. That's what we have, and that's what we're working with. And our people, if they are not happy with the government, must go and choose their own government through a ballot paper and not a barrel of a gun. So that's where we are. If they don't vote, and we're making this plea to them again to say, if you do not vote, brace yourself for the next 5 years of protests. Brace yourself for the next 5 years of suffering, because the status quo is not going to change. The ruling party will not give you services today services that they failed to give you 27 years ago. They will not wake up 28 years later and say, oh, by the way, we need to give you water, let's give you water. They're not going to do that. So they're going to continue with what they've been doing, which is non-service delivery to our people. And it is evident in most of these municipalities that are just collapsing. I mean, you can just check. There's not a single province where a municipality has not been put under administration or there has not been an intervention from provincial government. That just shows that the ruling party is not capable of ruling these municipalities. They must just hand them over to us. We thought that nature has really resolved our problem when they failed to field their candidates. But we've seen the Constitutional Court coming back and giving them another opportunity to say, there's nothing wrong with the IEC opening for registration. So that's fine. We're still going to beat them, even with that. But our people must really go out in their numbers on the 1st of November and vote for the EFF, vote for change.
We are told that younger and younger people are joining the organization, the EFF. And of course, you guys have shown the stats and you have publicly declared that, you are attracting a lot of younger generation. Why is it that young people, see the party as an alternative as compared to the others?
Because EFF is an alternative. There's no other alternative other than the EFF. But also, we as young people and every young person in this country does not owe their loyalty and anything to the ruling party. There's no struggle credential that is going to put bread on the table, that is creating jobs for young people currently in the country. So they can come back and say, I was Mkhonto, I was nan, but none of those things that they say translates to employment or putting bread on the table. So our people, young people, must not even find themselves wanting to honor the struggle credentials. They must honor their future, which is calling for them to be employed today, which is calling for them to be at school today. But with the current regime, I mean, you've seen with the Minister of Higher Education, the EFF Student Command had to take him to court to open the doors of learning when he said in UNISA he can only accommodate 20,000 students. And that's the struggle, what it does. That's the struggle credential that these nonsensical people are talking about. So none of that translates to food on the table. And young people do not owe them anything. We want to go to school. We want employment because we want a bright future for us. So if you look at the SRC elections, for example, through various institutions, the EFF Student Command is winning, majority of them, because they are sick and tired of being told lies. They are sick and tired of being promised non-existent things. And we are not surprised that even during the registration weekend, IEC came back and said 1.7 million young people registered to vote. We are actually very excited as the EFF because those are our people. Those are our voters, the young people. So we encourage young people to come out in their numbers on the 1st of November to vote for change and vote for the EFF. Those that will be voting for the first time, you've seen what the EFF does when they take over SRC in various campuses. Today you are able to register for free. Today you are able to receive a meal. Today we are fighting for you to receive laptops. So it's no longer foreign that only kids from rich families will go around with laptops. They're able to access research facilities and research equipment and all that. All children must be equal. All children must be given decolonized, free, quality education. So we call on young people to say, this is your organization because EFF is the future and this is your future. Come and vote for the future. There's no struggle credential that is going to help you. You can see they're not delivering services in all three spheres of government. So they will not wake up and deliver services. They've been given a chance for 27 years by the voters of this country to run this country. And this is what we are sitting with currently. But if you give the EFF to be in power, we're going to see real change that transforms the lives of our people forever.
Well, 8 years ago, you were a younger person. You decided to join the EFF, and you're saying now younger people are joining the EFF because they feel they do not owe any explanation to anybody for whatever happened in the past. Was that why you joined the EFF?
That's correct. That's correct. So I do not owe anybody anything. And by the way, I was never in politics before. Yes, I voted, but I was never an activist. I was never affiliated to any political party before. But it took me to see what they were doing and to say, but this can't be correct. To say, we need far much better than what we are given currently. And yes, I left corporate world and I'm not going back there. I'm now in politics forever because we are here to push the struggle. We are here to fulfill our mission of economic freedom in our lifetime, and we will never ever betray that mission. So yes, I joined the EFF 8 years ago, fresh from corporate, and I rose through the ranks of the organization until in 2019 I got elected as the Treasurer General. Prior to that, I was the Treasurer of Gauteng. I served my 4-year term, and prior to that, I was the Provincial Coordinator of Gauteng. We took the EFF to its first national government elections in 2014, and we came back with those high numbers in Gauteng. And prior to that, I was the coordinator of Tshwane region. And so it's been a journey, for me, and it's been an exciting journey, by the way, which led now to me resigning full-time from corporate world and to pursue the struggle. When I left Transnet, it was it had gone beyond. It could not be saved anymore. And I said, let me join politics and go and make the law. So be above Transnet. So if the implementers can't implement, let me go and make the law that forces the implementers to implement. So that's why we are in Parliament, to make the law and push Transnet to do what they are failing to do today. Something that we wanted to do, that we were doing, that we got stopped when this current regime came. Now, actually, I'm their boss, because now I'm going to be making the law of how Transnet should behave and how Transnet should holding them accountable. So we are there. We are there where we must dictate what must happen to our state-owned entities, because those who are tasked with the obligation to officiate, to be officials in the state-owned entities, are doing as they please. They are not carrying out the mandate of the people. So we feel that when you are there, you are able to change the status of these SOEs.
My last question before we conclude: how does it feel working, alongside the CIC, who comes across as a very harsh person in public? I don't know how he is in private, but how does it feel working with someone, with so much energy such as him? And I know there's the DP who's also soft-spoken, Floyd Shivambu, soft-spoken but very intelligent. And I've had people saying that you are the female version of them.
No. So no. So it's very interesting to work with the Commander-in-Chief, President Julius Malema, and of course the Deputy President, Floyd Shivambu, and the rest of the officials and the Central Command team. We complement one another. President has been a politician for all his life, and so is the case with the DP. I've been in corporate for all my life. So I bring the corporate side of things, and they bring the politics side of things, element of it. And President is a very hands-on person, and is a go-to person. So President is very involved. He's very passionate about what he does. I'm also very passionate about what I do. So we tend to talk a lot together. We do things a lot together. A lot of people might not notice, but we do a lot of things together, and he gives guidance, and he's got an ear also to listen. When you say to President, this one I give one hand, Ogaru, we need to do this. He's that person who is got an open door policy. He wants to open. He doesn't see himself as Mr. Know-it-all. He's open for persuasion, by the way, and he respects the fact that I come from corporate. And I respect the fact that I'm new in politics and I've got to add value. But what I do know is that I've got the passion. What I do know is that I will never for once regret having left corporate, because where I am, I'm very happy to be where I am. I'm very happy to be doing what I'm doing with the people that I'm doing with. So I'm happy to be in the EFF. And by the way, I never knew President Julius Malema until 2013 when the EFF was formed. And even then, I never knew him, he never knew me. But when I was the secretary, rather the coordinator of Tshwane, we would send reports from the region to national. And there'll be discussions as to say, who writes these reports? So the work that we were doing spoke for us before the facial appearance. So they got to know Omphile after they've known the work that Omphile and the team were doing in Tshwane. So we were a force in Tshwane, and we were pulling in one direction, all of us, and we were working for the organization. So it's not like he knew me before. It's not like it's a favor that I've known this person. He has never known me until the EFF was formed. I've never known him. I've seen him on TV. And by the way, that applies to all of them. The people that I'm serving with, from president, deputy president, the SG, the DSG, the national chair, and all commissars. I never knew them because I was never in that space before. I know a lot of corporate people because I was in corporate all my life. So it's very interesting to be working with the CSC and the DP and all officials. We give each other space. And President is one person who will look at you. He knows how to spot talent. He knows that if I want this thing to happen, I will ask this one. And if I want this thing to happen, this one is stronger on this one than on that one. So he gives you work like that. And he knows that if I give it to this person, this one will implement it for me. So it's very exciting. He's not harsh, by the way. Not at all. He's not harsh. He might come across as being harsh, but he emphasizes the point. So don't lie to him. If you're failing to do something, tell him, say, hey, I'm hitting a barrier here. I'm unable to implement this. I know I promised this, and I'm unable to deliver. He will understand. He's a human being. And instead, he will even help you to say, okay, in that case, we can do 1, 2, 3, we can do 1, 2, 3. Typical example, when we went to Power FM, now during the Women's Month, when I hosted the show, I did not have, I had a lot of people from corporate that I wanted to bring to the show. I did not have anybody who can come and speak about the land question. A land question doesn't require Brian Molefe, for example, or Siyabonga Kama, for example. So I needed people who will contribute to that topic, to that discussion. So the topic of SOEs would have been relevant if I were to call Lindiwe Susulu, for example. But it was more relevant when I called Brian Molefe, who has been in the SOE space. So the issue of the land was the same, to say, who do we bring? And we brainstormed together, and we came up to where we were. So he's that kind of a person that you can. Thank you very much. Thank you. So he's lovable. He's great to work with. I mean, I'm excited to be working with him. And every day when I look at the phone and he calls me, I know there'll be something exciting. I know there'll be maybe a new assignment that he gives to me, and I'm going to deliver, and you're going to all be laughing and being excited about it all the time. There's never a time when I see him calling and I panic and I'm scared that he's going to scream and shout. No, he doesn't do that. He's going to express his disappointment when he's disappointed with you in a very a respectful manner, in a very honest manner, so that you know that you have let him down. And in future, don't do that. He will never belittle you. He will just tell you how he feels at that moment. Very respectful, in a very, very honorable manner. And yeah, it's been almost 2 years now being with the leadership, and it's all good. And I see the next 3 years being the same until we finish our mandate of 5 years. But we're excited.
The fondness expressed there for the CIC as well as the leadership of the EFF is very amazing. I must say that every political party needs that. So that was Omphile Maotwe, the Treasurer General of the third biggest political party in the country, Treasurer General of the EFF. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Inside Factor. The conversation was so beautiful, and we wish you all the best for the local government elections.
No, thank you very much, Thabo. Thank you for Inside Factor for hosting us tonight. We are also equally excited to have been here. We still appeal to our people to say, let's go out in our numbers on the 1st of November to register to vote for the EFF, the only organization that seeks to change the living conditions of our people. I thank you.
Thanks for joining us and watching The Inside Factor with the Treasurer General of the EFF, Omphile Maotwe. Please do follow us at Inside Factor on Twitter. We are also available on Facebook at Inside Factor. We are available on Instagram at Inside Factor. You can also follow us on YouTube, our channel where you always watch your favorite show at Inside Factor, The Inside Factor rather. Thank you so much for watching. Good night.